Welcome to the next session on machine learning using Python. This session is about multi-layer perceptron. So before getting into this topic, I recommend you all to have a clear understanding on single layer perceptron. I have given both theory explanation as well as a solved example. So it's better if you have a clear understanding on single layer perceptron. Let's start the discussion with an understanding of XOR gate. XOR gate's truth table goes like this. When both the inputs are same, the output is supposed to be 0, and when both the inputs are different, and it was supposed to be 1. When the same is plotted using a two-dimensional graph like this, so we expect 0 as the output, and when we draw a decision boundary, so a 0 is expected to be at the output when both the inputs are 0. Again, when both inputs are 1, we again need to have 0 as the output. On the other case, when both inputs are different, we want 1 as the output. Why this could not be processed using single layer perceptron? And let's recap single layer perceptron. Single layer perceptron takes the inputs x1, x2 and so on up to xm. It will multiply the inputs with the corresponding weights, and the summation of all these things will be added up to the common variance of the system or the data set, which we call it as the bias. So the result will be processed using the activation function. Based on the sign of your result, the output will either be on class 1 or class B. So that's how the single layer perceptron works. So the computation just will go using your adder circuit, subtractor circuit, multiplier circuit. That's it, nothing more than that. Now, if we explore the functionality of XOR gate, let us assume the input 1 is represented using x1, input 2 is represented using x2, and the output is represented using y. So the formula that is used to calculate the output y goes like this. So x1 plus x2 multiplied by x1 bar plus x2 bar, where the plus represents the functionality of OR gate, star represents functionality of AND gate, and the bar represents functionality of NOT gate. So for this y to be processed, we are in need to compute two subfunctions, the first one being x1 plus x2 and the second one being x1 bar plus x2 bar. So this is the first subfunction that needs to be computed. This is the second subfunction that needs to be computed. Both needs to be passed on to a multiplier unit, which can give you the output y. So we manually have calculated this x1 plus x2. So this represents just the OR operation. So 0, 0, it is 0. On other cases, it is 1. So this is x1 bar plus x2 bar. So the complement of x1 is what we call as x1 bar. The complement of x2 is what we call as x2 bar. So the complement of x1 becomes 1 when neither of the input is 1. We will get 1 as the output. And here if you see this 1 and 1, when it gets complemented, it will become 0, and hence this alone becomes your out. When both the things are fed to a AND operator or an AND gate, we get y as the result. 0 into 1, it is 0, and when both the inputs are 1, we get 1 as the output, and this is what is the actual XOR gate output. So can you execute this using single layer perceptron? Of course not, because single layer perceptron will take x1 and x2 as input. It can just straight away feed it to a adder circuit, subtractor circuit or a multiplier circuit, that's all. So it cannot temporarily process this kind of data and keep it in a temporary space and then process the result. That's where we end up with the requirement of multi-layer perceptron. One step using simple operations are enough for you? Not at all possible. For all kind of problem, this is not at all enough, and hence we need to first get the input, compute some subfunctions as what we have seen. So what is the first subfunction? x1 plus x2 as your first subfunction, and x1 bar plus x2 bar as your second subfunction. Both needs to be multiplied. So we need to compute some subfunctions, and the result of these subfunctions has to be processed in order to get the results back. How this could be implemented using a perceptron? That's the next question. Okay. Input are nothing but your raw data, which is taken directly from the data set. Okay. what is the expected output. So we don't want anything, okay, which is running in between. So the end user is not interested to understand how is it being processed internally. What we require is nothing but the output, right? Raw data is given as the input from the data set. Output is what we require from the system. Okay. So internally, these sub functions needs to be computed, and this will be hidden from the user. Okay. User don't know what is happening inside. He is giving the input, he is getting the output, and hence portion where we give inputs is what is called as your input layer. The that is the application from where we got the output is what we call as your output layer. And wherever internal processing happens, wherever you are creating the temporary variable, storing all the things, is what we call as your hidden layer, right? So how many hidden layers are required? That's the next question. Is it possible to have one hidden layer, or is it possible, or is it required to have many more hidden layers, is the next question. There is no common standardization on it. It depends on how many sub functions you are in need of. Okay, in general, in a simple understanding, and the number of hidden layers may grow large as per the number of sub functions or the internal components that you have. For example, in modular programming, we try to break down the program into submodules, 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 till when we are getting convinced. Likewise, you can add on hidden layers until you get a satisfied result. These hidden layers will process small portions of your required and will pass on the output to the next layers for further processing. And hence, now I hope you can understand the functionality of multi-layer perceptron. This is how it goes. This is what we call as your input layer, and this is what we call as your hidden layer, and finally the result will be given as usual to this corresponding activation function. So this is your input layer, this is your actual hidden layer. In your hidden layer again, but the basic functionality remains same. The user inputs will be multiplied with your weights, and then it will be added with the common bias of the unit, and hence the output will be released. This output will again be given internally as a result of your activation function. See, in each and every hidden row, the activation function will be applied and the results will be given out. Let's say if the result is 1, for example, if it is in binary class, this again will be multiplied with W, and summation, that is the output of H2 will be multiplied with this weight, and finally it will be summed up with the bias, and that will be the final input to your activation function, and the result of the activation function is what we call as your output. Now if we see, this is your input function x1 to xm, and inside the hidden layer this functionality will go on, wherein we multiply wi with xi for all the nodes and will be added up with bias, and finally it will be passed on to an activation function that is available on the hidden layers. For example, some of the activation function that we normally use there are ReLU, sigmoid function, etc. And the result is then again processed using new set of weights, okay, that are between your hidden layer and your output layer, and the final output will be given to the activation function, which could either be your sigmoidal function or normal sine function, etc. Anything could be of interest. Now coming to, this is your output value. Now coming to what are the different kind of outputs that we are able to have. If your output is a continuous value, okay, we say multi-layer perceptron has to support the accretion concept, and hence no activation function is required. So the output will just be a number, and you can give the user the corresponding output itself. The second case is if you have two class labels as part of your output. So we say it is coming under binary classification, in which case you can use any kind of activation functions, the most popular being sigmoid function, as well as sign based on sign function. Based on sign is what we have seen in single layer perceptron. If the output is less than 0 or negative, we say class label is 0, otherwise the class label is 1. Then comes your multi-class. Multi-class means if you have more than 2 class labels in your output column, we say it comes under multi-class. When it is so, softmax is the common activation function that we will be using, which is based on fuzzy mechanisms. So anything of this could be of choice depending on the output which we have. On errors, for example, so if you look at the output, that's what we call it as your predicted output. It's not always the same when you compare this to your actual outputs. In case of errors, what to do? In single layer perceptron, what we did, we go back, we'll adjust the weights by using the formula W nu is equal to W old minus the product of 3 parameters, the learning rate, the difference in output followed by your corresponding input parameter. The same is being done here also, but the case here is since you have the possibility of having multiple layers, so the output, the errors also have to be propagated. The weight adjustments have to be propagated from through across your different layers. Okay. So in order for better output, we have to adjust the weights by using a concept called backpropagation. Actually, backpropagation is a very important mechanism that needs to be completely understood for the neural networks to be learnt, which is actually not a part of the scope of this course. But in order for simple understanding, let me tell you what it is, just overview for this. Normally, the inputs will be given in this corresponding x1, x2 and all, and the weights will be assumed at random as usual, and all the processing will happen, the bias will be added, and applying the hidden activation function at this hidden layer will come with an output. Again, you will have another set of weights over here with which those output will be multiplied and will be summed up along with the bias, and finally it will be given as an input to your activation function. Now this output, when we check, we came to know that it's not as expected. Okay, it's not as expected. The actual and the predicted value goes different, and hence we need to adjust the weights. So we are in this step. First of all, we need to assess or adjust the weights which makes us to reach this level. So which is the weight? It is corresponding to its immediate level. So once this is adjusted, using this we have to go back and adjust the previous level. So how many ever be the number of levels you have, you go back, adjust the weights, go back till you reach your inputs. That's what we call it as back propagation. So from this level, you have to go back to the hidden layer, adjusting all the weights. From there, you have to go back to the input layer, adjusting all the weights. So that is the basic mechanism of back propagation. By using this, the weights will be adjusted so as to give a proper result. Again, coming to the different metrics, it's as usual, this is a classification algorithm, and hence whatever metrics we use for classification can be used here. The most important being your accuracy score and your F1 score. Thank you.